defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, man. Come on.
People deluded, I'm back again. As it's the last week of the Premier League season, regardless of where your team is and what they've done or not done this season, we'll focus on football when the time comes. Obviously, we're gearing up to the transfer market. Let's actually see what's being linked with Arsenal in terms of the news, views, rumours, etc. Now, we've got to remember the dream is free, the hustle is sold separately. Smash the like button, comment your opinions throughout. If you haven't subscribed, you know exactly what to do. Now, Arsenal have been linked with Gundogan. Ilkay Gundogan to Arsenal. Manchester City star to decide future after Champions League final. The Gunners want both the Manchester City midfielder and Declan Rice this summer, with Mason Mount and Caicedo also of interest. Now, for Gundogan, if you read other reports, apparently, you know, City are gearing up to offer him a contract that he believes acceptable in terms of length of contract. Some are even saying a clue that he will stay, as Pep Guardiola didn't bring him on for the final periods in their last game. I didn't watch it, so I couldn't tell you what happened against Chelsea. You know, emotions were too high. Shout out to the B City team, though. They could probably get Champions League. Gundogan would be a lovely short-term fix for Arsenal, with us being in the Champions League, with us trying to go one better next season, and ultimately bring another trophy home to the Emirates. Ilkay Gundogan has delayed the decision over his future until the Champions League final, as the Manchester City captain weighs up interest from Arsenal. Obviously, I actually believe his priority is probably to go to Barcelona. I'm sure he will listen to Manchester City, and I'm sure after that, with the other clubs that he is or isn't linked to, he would listen to what Arsenal are saying in the project. Now, he's 31, 32, 33, so again, it's techie. Well, 32 is techie for the 32-year-old, because if it takes Arsenal a couple of years to get to where the fans want us to get to, that's great for the players in their early to mid-20s, not necessarily for Gundogan. As you know, he's out of contract next month. Mikel Arteta wants to sign him on a free transfer as he looks to strengthen his midfield for next season. City are expected to offer Gundogan a new contract, but the 32-year-old has put talks over his future on hold until Pep Guardiola's side have completed their bid for historical treble. And that's right. He can deal with, you know, with Declan Rice. We hear they want to focus on the Conference League. That's what they should do. And you know, on one hand, if they win the treble, I'm sure he would want to stay. He'd win more trophies at City, but also there's no better time to go out than at the top, really, and have a good ending. And it does feel like a not rebuild or changing of things, but I don't know what it is. It just feels like City, there's like a new guard developing. You look at half of their players, the Cancelos, the Bernardo Silvas, the Gundogans, a lot of their players appear to be getting itchy feet. And I just think Pep will, you might see the likes of Foden play even more prominently and things like that. But for what it's worth, we've seen that for like the 55th time across the last couple of videos I've done. Arsenal's interest in Gundogan will not affect their pursuit of number one summer target Declan Rice. Xhaka is in talks with Bayern Leverkusen over a £13 million deal. Check out the video I did yesterday. He was very evasive and didn't really offer any clues on his future. In the comments Xhaka made, but it does feel like, based on what he said, that he's gearing up for the game against Wolves to be his last outing as an Arsenal player at the Emirates, people. Obviously, you know, I'm sure Gundogan has his own opinion of Mikel Arteta. I'm sure if he wants to ask Jesus and Zinchenko, they'll be more than happy to try and get him to sign. After the game in Istanbul, where the Champions League final is, City are set to make final attempts to tie the German international down to a new contract. Gundogan is seeking a 2-year contract, but so far City have only offered him a 1-year extension, despite his key role in their title success. Now, applying a bit of City tax to Arsenal. Now, Gundogan's a great player who will show his quality just like Jesus and Zinchenko, but we're not City. So there is going to be a somewhat drop-off performance. And if I'm playing devil's advocate, for as much as I think Gundogan's a quality player and, you know, will be here all day, why aren't City offering him that? Why aren't they prepared to offer him more than a 1-year deal? Is it something where it's nothing personal to Gundogan? It's just what they're doing when you approach that age? Is there some sort of concerns? Is that, you know, what is it really and truly? And is that something Arsenal could learn from potentially, people? It is what it is. What's this article? Let's see what that's saying in relation to Gundogan. As well as Gundogan and Rice, the Gunners also have an interest in Chelsea midfielder Mason Mount. As you know, his future is in doubt, as it doesn't appear they're any closer to signing a new deal. He's out of contract next season. There's been no breakthrough. We all know in January we had a bid rejected for Caicedo. We're also still interested in Moussa Diaby and Mark Guehi, people, where if you skip here, apparently Liverpool have joined Manchester United, Arsenal and Tottenham in trying to attract the 22-year-old Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace. He will cost as high as 50 million, you know, English tax included. Quality player. Will Arsenal do that for someone that's going to be probably the third choice centre back, someone that would have to really fight to take Saliba's place. I'm not too sure. But if there's a deal to be done, he's a quality player, people. And he's durable. He's played a full 90 minutes in all of the 36 Crystal Palace games they've played. However, he's contracted until 2026. So it will take a lot of money to price him away from Crystal Palace, people. But skipping back to Ilkay Gundogan, allegedly he's already told Arsenal why he would join the club and why he may not. Okay. We all know City are keen to keep him. There's interest with Barcelona. Gundogan said in April there are talks in the background. That's normal with a couple months left. There's nothing decided, not from my side, not from the club side. The talks, they continue. If there's a decision at one point, then you guys in the media will be the first to know. Okay, but this doesn't really say anything. And apparently his physical condition will play a part, but that doesn't really say anything. We're probably done by the clickbait. Anyways, moving on. Fabrizio Romano, and I'm sure you've seen some rumours, allegedly Ian Wright and Bukayo Saka at the Emirates to put the final touches on, I'm sure, what would be the announcement video of Bukayo Saka officially confirming that he's extended his stay at the club. Romano has said, I understand Saka has signed a new long-term contract with Arsenal, done and sealed. Huge one for the Gunners after a verbal agreement reached in February. Official announcement, next formal step expected very soon. Here we go, confirmed. The magic words. In relation to Zubamendi, the offensive charm is starting with Barcelona, really. Barcelona and Real Sociedad spoke about Zubamendi on Saturday during board lunch. The club's interest is now a fact. La Real are interested in a couple of young players, and apparently, they're trying to get Messi back, trying to bring Cancelo, trying to bring young Victor Roque and Zubamendi as well as Gundogan. Quite the reinforcements for Barcelona. I reckon he stays in Spain, but Zubamendi, for me, would be a quality signing. João Cancelo is the number one target for Barcelona to sign on loan. Thomas Partey has actually been linked to with a move away. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts, people. Surely it doesn't make sense, whatever you think about Thomas Partey, to sell not only Granit Xhaka, but Thomas Partey, which was our first choice pivot. And even if we want to move away from both of them collectively as a partnership or individually, we're going to need these players. We can't just get rid of everybody. If I'm right with you. And to be honest with you, until you confirm the Caicedos, the Rices, bit of a different one, but Zubamendi, we're light in terms of physical presence in midfield on the best of days. Xhaka puts himself about. We definitely would with Partey. Then you're looking at Jorginho playing 6, which he does that a completely different way. El Nene obviously is the nearest you're going to get to that. Obviously a squad player and nothing more, not to disrespect him, and he's had a couple of injuries. But allegedly, Thomas Partey is a target for Serie A clubs, and Italy could be a next career move for the Ghana midfielder this summer, with 2 clubs thought to be keen. He turns 30 next month, which again, at least for another year, we should look to keep him. Once again, this article spoken on Xhaka's departure, our interest in Caicedo, Mount, and Declan Rice, so we won't go over that. It doesn't specifically say what clubs are linked with Thomas Partey, but nonetheless, apparently Arsenal are set to bid for West Ham captain Declan Rice, with Mason Mount, Gundogan, and Caicedo on the shortlist, people. Allegedly, his reps have been in contact with Bayern Munich and vice versa. But where Arsenal are concerned, internal discussions at the Emirates Stadium are continuing over the possibility of signing the England midfielder who was of interest in to the Arsenal back in January. We all know David Moyes wants top money for him. Thomas Tuchel is keen to bring him to Germany, and apparently they've reached out to the family members of him, people. It is understood, however, that the asking price for the Hammers captain could prove too much for Bayern Munich. Apparently, Rice has a gentleman's agreement to seek a new club in the summer. We all know he has a year left until 2024. He's contracted until 2025, when you consider that they have an option of extending it by a further year. We all know we're linked with Caicedo. We all know De Zerbi has kind of said Caicedo and McAllister could be gone. He's understood to be high on the list of at least 3 other Premier League clubs, and you can make a case of he'll be a great addition and needed at Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man United. And you'd imagine the Rices, the Caicedos, Newcastle's going to try and grab one of them. Arsenal are going for both Rice and Caicedo in the summer. Has not been ruled out, but the prospect of bringing in both players would likely depend on money generated from possible sales. Arsenal also keeping an eye on a number of other midfielders, with Xhaka expected to leave in the summer. Mason Mount and Gundogan have emerged as potential targets, people. Well, what a player Gundogan would be, but yeah. A structured £90 million offer from Arsenal for Rice is expected soon, though West Ham want considerably more and believe Manchester United will offer it. Arsenal hope Rice wants to stay in London. I mean, if we get him, get him. If not, keep it moving. This article is spoken about, West Ham are flirting with a very high transfer fee for the 24-year-old people, and the 80 million euros offer that Arsenal are prepared to lodge. It's gone from 100 to 80 to 90 is too much for Bayern Munich. but he is a dream of Tommy Tuchel. Ben Jacobs, not sure how credible he is on this matter, like with all the journalists, but on Declan Rice, he said with Declan Rice, a lot of prep is being done internally at Arsenal as they start to understand what they may need to get Rice and what more gamesmanship on West Ham side. So this British transfer record number, and David Moyes has even said as large as 120 million, is in my opinion unrealistic from West Ham, which is true. Comparing Rice to Enzo Fernandez is not necessarily apt. I can't say that word. Of course, if we're comparing footballer to footballer, you can make a comparison. But the situation with Enzo was that he had a sky-high release clause and Chelsea desperately wanted him. Whereas with Declan Rice, he's got 1 year plus a 1 year extension left on his contract. That affects the valuation, as does Declan Rice wanting to leave West Ham. After being extremely firm on keeping him last summer, there's always been an understanding that Rice could depart for a right opportunity, and West Ham have been resigned in many ways to losing Rice. So it is what it is. And again, durability is one of the best traits you could have. He's been available for 48 Premier League games for West Ham. Well, 48 games in all comps, better yet, and ever present in the Premier League for West Ham. We need players. I can say that with Xhaka. I can't say Thomas Partey is always fit. We've been linked with Kimmich. I would love to be proven wrong, but we all know this is BS. But for what it's worth, Liverpool and Arsenal are interested in ambitious transfer of Bundesliga star, who's also been linked with Barcelona, people. So we'll have to see. It'd be a great signing, the 28-year-old for Arsenal, who can obviously play right back as well as in midfield. But I don't think that's realistic for Arsenal. For what it's worth, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man United among scouts at the Bayern Munich Leipzig game. Now, that doesn't always, there's there's 22 players who start the game. It doesn't mean everybody's there to look at Kimmich. Now, I didn't watch Bayern Munich versus Leipzig, but, if Gravenberch played, he's been linked with moves away. I don't know if Sinkerman played, but we've been linked with the right back / right centre-back / right back. They could have been looking at him as well as Kimmich. It could have been just scouts just making sure that they're keeping themselves knowledgeable on potential players. So, for what it's worth, scouts were there, people. And also Man United, West Ham, if I didn't say that already, Manchester City, Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool were all present. I'm sure they all had different options. Apparently, 90 Minute reported last week that Kimmich is considering his future at Bayern Munich. So this is where maybe the bulk of the rumours are coming from, people. Pavard's also been linked with a move to Barcelona and allegedly is being closely linked with Arsenal, Newcastle, and Man United. Apparently, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle are keeping tabs on Dani Almo and Dominic Szoboszlai. And obviously, you've got Gavdad, the young Croatian centre-back as well, people. And we all know Cancelo got 86 minutes in that game, and he's wanted by Arsenal, Barcelona, and I'm sure a bunch of other clubs, people. What it's worth, Man City are ready to meet Gundogan's new deal demands after being sparked into action by Arsenal's transfer interest. Now, you got to remember, the Mounts, the Rices, the Caicedos, after players Arsenal and other clubs are linked with, their agents or their advisors could be leveraging that advice to get better deals at their current employers or, clubs they're more likely to join use Arsenal as a bit of a baiting tool and vice versa. These things happen. They're aiming to keep him. So I'd assume that means they're offering him the 2-year deal and the finances he wants, people. Apparently, Barca indicated they were willing to offer a 2-year deal. Gundogan was holding out for a similar offer from his current club. Arsenal have been interested, but there's optimism that he'll extend his stay beyond 7 years at the Etihad, people. Apparently, the deal proposed by City is believed to be structured differently to the one he has been offered at the Camp Nou and closer to what he's looking for. So he's got every reason to stay at City, really. And again, the feeling is Guardiola would have thrown his captain on for a few minutes at the end to say his goodbyes if he had thought he was going to be his Etihad farewell. We'll have to see really and truly how that develops. Milinkovic-Savic, apparently Romano has said, or better yet, contexted the words of the director, another one who's been linked with Arsenal and contracted until 2024. We will meet soon to discuss the situation. Anything can happen. It's also possible for Sergi to be sold to another club. He likes and respects the club the club coach and president. So we'll have to see. On Reece Nelson, Romano has said, I understand Arsenal's new proposal to Reece Nelson is a long-term deal valued for the next 4 years until 2027, plus an option of a further year up to the player. Our English, Italian, and French sides have approached Nelson over a potential free move. Now, you just got to look at the minutes you've played, the consistent starts, how many times you actually have started in the Premier League. It probably makes sense for Reece Nelson to depart. But for what it's worth, if the 23-year-old wants to sign a new deal, I think he's a decent squad player. Obviously, if he still wants to move, we can obviously sell him for money. And until we bring in a winger, a midfielder, where the Parteys of this world are linked with and the Nelson, we need to confirm some players in. Really and truly, we've offered him a deal, and I think obviously up until I believe from 16 to 23, I think there's a rule. I can't remember the finances around it, but if you offer a new deal and the player rejects it, it goes to a tribunal, a bit like with what would have happened with Eddie Nketiah last summer. Not sure what that fee would be, but we'd be entitled to something for Reece Nelson if he does depart on a free transfer, which is a possibility. DiMarzio has spoken on Caicedo. He has said on Arsenal and everybody else. On Arsenal, they wanted him in January. The only sure thing is that Brighton wants an important fee for him. They're not a club that decides to let players go on a discount. If they decide that this is the fee they want for him, they will have it. Otherwise, the player stays. I think De Zerbi thinks that Caicedo can even play for Real Madrid. So the consideration that Brighton has of Caicedo is that of a top player. If Arsenal or other clubs will arrive with not less than 80 to 90 million euros, they want that money. Otherwise, Caicedo will stay. They will lose McAllister because I think he will go to Liverpool. Yes, Brighton got Milner, they got Dahoud, but Caicedo is a different player and really, really important. If Arsenal insist and will arrive at that money, this is the moment Caicedo will go. And with Rice and Caicedo, obviously Arsenal would have an incredible midfield. Whether we get that done is another thing. Mohamed Kudus' agent has apparently told the club he is leaving and he wants to seek a new move in the summer. He has been linked with a bunch of Premier League teams. Yesterday, he was primarily linked with Arsenal, Newcastle, and Manchester United, courtesy of David Ornstein's Think column. Make sure you're checking out the other videos, people. We've gone over Mark Gurhey. Burnley have been linked with Lokonga. Apparently, they're plotting a loan to buy signing people. Hopefully, it's an obligation and not an option, because if Burnley don't stay in the Premier League, it is what it is. Sources have informed this site that there's a strong chance that a loan deal could include clauses for a permanent deal next summer. Arsenal are keen to offload Lokonga after his underwhelming loan spell at Crystal Palace, and the Gunners would be willing to agree a permanent deal at the right price. You know, the £17.2 million transfer just hasn't worked out. So whether it's Burnley, Palace, or somewhere else, probably has to keep it moving. We've covered Thomas Partey already. To kind of see what Goal.com is saying, people, once again, we've offered Nelson a 4-year deal. We're considering a move for Kimmich. We've joined the race for Kudus. Bayern Munich have been in touch with the entourage of Declan Rice. Bayern Leverkusen are set to sign Granit Xhaka on a 4-year deal for 15 million euros. You see everything from 13 to 15 million euros. And Xhaka has said, if next week we know more on my future, I'll be thankful for the fans because of how they treat me after this. I didn't expect that. So, yeah, make of that what you will. We've gone over Gundogan. West Ham are interested in Lokonga, Balogun and Nelson. Maybe they could be offered in some sort of capacity as we look to get Declan Rice. We're allegedly in pole position for Caicedo, and Brighton are open to sell him in the summer. We are linked with PSV Eindhoven youngster Xavi Simons, where we know of our interest in Cancelo already, people. Odegaard's drawing interest from some of the biggest clubs in Europe, allegedly, as we look to tie him down. We've been linked with fullback Sacha Boey of Galatasaray and fellow French fullback Mendy of Real Madrid, left and right back, respectively. So we'll have to see, you know, for all the players we're linked with, we don't know what's going to happen. We've also been linked with Ruben Neves once again, so it's getting to silly season. As I said, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, and check out the other videos. Most importantly, stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll see you lot again soon.
There's always just that
Active red light, defending.
I think it's like